Well, we are facing the propaganda machine in full effect. You got Mark Carney, who's somehow miraculously, even though he's got no political experience, even though just a week ago he called himself not a politician, but just recently called himself a politician, not an elected politician, is somehow projected to have a majority liberal government against Pierre Poilievre. Yeah, freaking right, man. I don't believe that for even half of a second. Then you also have the news of Canadian flags are just crazy going through this roof with sales, which, speaking of crazy, today marks the 3-year anniversary of the Emergencies Act being illegally invoked. And up until today, now that they're doing this whole Team Canada thing, up until today, starting from almost just over 3 years ago, the Canadian flag was viewed as a sign of protest by right-wing extremist people who supported the convoy. And now it's like, woohoo, go Canada, go. Kind of crazy how that all worked out. Then you also have new tariffs being put on Canada, on the automotive industry. All vehicles are being taxed with tariffs starting, I think it was April, not first, because that would be a sick and twisted joke, like the carbon tax, but April 2nd. You have conservatives that are breaking their silence on what's going on with Mark Carney and with Trump. And then you also have a Canadian NDP politician, Charlie Angus, the freaking weirdo, the reject, who has a little bit of a peacocking moment against Donald Trump. Lots to take a look at in this video. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video, everybody. Before we get into it, I do want to encourage you all to the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. It does really help grow the channel. And without further ado, let's get right into it. Starting things off by letting you know that we're going to see how it goes. It's a test pilot. I think I'm pretty committed to it, actually. So until I reverse my mind. Okay. I've officially decided to turn my extra channel, which I've renamed to Jasper Sun, into my American channel. I'm obviously a fan of American politics. That's no surprise. Now I'm a fan of Trump. And so if you head over to Jasper Sun, Mr. Sunshine Extra, click the link down in the description or the pinned comment below. You can see that, yes, I did post a lot of Canadian stuff, but my latest video there is actually a very recent update with an executive order that Trump signed and that the military, the United States military, confirmed it, where Trump has banned transgenders from joining or even being in the United States military. So do me a favor, do yourself a favor if you're into American politics, and go and click that link and subscribe to that channel so you can stay informed on everything America. All right, let's get into this Canadian video. Starting off with this user right here on X, TD Leaker, is saying that rumors are swirling within insider circles that Trump could rename Lake Ontario to Lake America by Canada Day, which I wouldn't be surprised if he tried to do something like that. And then you've got the news of Canadian flags sales are surging, apparently.
A Canadian flag maker's sales have doubled from a year earlier, the company's owners said, as tensions with the neighboring United States fuel a wave of patriotism.
This traditionally is probably the lowest part of our season.
Matt Skip is co-owner of Flags Unlimited. He credits the spike in demand to threats from U.S. President Donald Trump.
Our volumes are double what they would normally be at this time of year, and we think that this is going to be a huge year for flag sales in Canada.
Trump has suggested in recent weeks that Canada would be better off if it agreed to become the 51st U.S. state.
I spoke to Governor Trudeau on numerous occasions, and we'll see what happens.
After Trump announced 25% tariffs on most of Canada's goods, Canadians canceled trips south of the border, boycotted U.S. alcohol and other products, and even booed at sporting events. Trump has since delayed the tariffs. Skip says the company produces more than 500,000 flags annually and is now considering extra shifts and sourcing more material to meet demand.
This is the first time, I've really ever concerned about actually running out of product.
The company manufactures and assembles the flags in Ontario, though it imports some of its materials from overseas. Canadian politicians have...
Oh, it's not made in Canada then. It's only partly made in Canada. But that's nice to see that people are becoming feeling more and more patriotic, regardless of whether it's this Liberal Team Canada thing that's pushing it, or whether it's Trump cracking down on tariffs and threatening to annex Canada. Whatever it is, I'm glad that Canadians are starting to be more pro-Canada. But I got to say for my own that I'm feeling a little bit deflated when it comes to being pro-Canada. That doesn't mean that I'm anti-Canada by any means. I'm just, my level of patriotism is almost at an all-time low. And I'm somebody that was in the military. I wore the flag on my shoulder every single day for many, many years. And I'm a little sick and tired of the circus that's been going on in Canada. I just want Canada to get back on track. Get back on track and do a little bit of what America is doing. But more on that later. Then you got Mark Carney and the propaganda machine in full effect. So Liberals somehow, don't listen to this, but Liberals are projected to win a majority with Mark Carney as the party leader. And you can see the top comment here, source, trust me, bro. And when you click on it, it's actually Cult of Montreal newspaper or something like that. I don't think it's a mainstream media newspaper at all. I think it's just some person who's trying to push propaganda out there. Look, I don't doubt that there's been a bump in the polls since Trudeau has resigned, because there was so much anti-Trudeau rhetoric that was taking place. But to suggest that Carney is going to surpass Poilievre in popularity, people don't even know who Carney is. Like, unless you're in the mix, you don't know. I got a bunch of friends from school, from my childhood, just friends that are even recent friends who don't really watch the news, may occasionally see some of my videos or something like that. They have no idea who Mark Carney is. He's like a no man's land, right? And now all of a sudden he's going to pull off this miraculous win. I don't think so. Yeah, so be careful for stuff like that. And now you've got the Conservatives breaking their silence on everything. They're back in Parliament. They did an emergency meeting and the reporters caught them in the halls. Let's take a look.
About the polls at all? Where the party's standing right now?
We've been consistently concerned about Carbon Tax Carney's failure to provide any transparency to Canadians about his financial interests for half a decade while he's been advising the Carney-Trudeau Liberal government. And there have been if only few questions from the media about how much his megacorp profited while he was advising the government. And this is incredibly important to Canadians after we've had 9 years of a government run by serial ethical lawbreakers from the Prime Minister through his front bench, including ministers who are reoffering and supporting Carbon Tax Carney in his bid to run the Liberal Party and to be Prime Minister of Canada. It's unbelievable that this guy has provided no transparency whatsoever about what his financial interests are. So Canadians are wondering this. We've been demanding answers, but there hasn't been a lot of ink spilled on it, and certainly Mark Carney's been in witness protection and hasn't answered a whole lot of questions. So we're going to keep asking those questions. We look forward to seeing and reading the questions that you put to Carbon Tax Carney about his profits that he's cashed in while advising the NDP Liberal government.
Yeah, none of that has to be public right now because he's not a federally elected MP. He's not elected anything. He's going to be a selected prime minister, interim prime minister, until there's an actual election that takes place. But it's extremely bizarre. Like, the guy is just flying under the radar and getting rich while doing so, and seems to think that even with all the elites backing him and the entire system backing him, that he can somehow pull off a win. Unless there's an insane amount of cheating that happens, I don't believe that Mark Carney can win the election.
The election is going to be about the carbon tax. Do you think this election is going to be about the carbon tax? Do you think it's going to be more about Donald Trump and Canada-U.S. relations?
Look, we are the only party who said that we're going to get rid of the carbon tax. We've heard lies from the Liberals about what they're going to do with the carbon tax, and Carbon Tax Carney committing to bring in a shadow carbon tax on Canadians. A tax by any tax is still taking money out of a tax by any name is still taking money out of Canadians' pockets. And so this election is about what's best for Canadians, putting Canadians first, and nothing puts Canadians first like axing the carbon tax. Thanks very much.
I think the next election is going to be about the carbon tax, Mr. Chair.
Are you sure you're concerned at all about polls?
just want to address Mark Carney's comments where he was downplaying the opioid crisis that is facing that Canadians are suffering from. Nearly 50,000 Canadians have lost their lives. Fathers and mothers have lost children. People have lost siblings as a direct result of the 9 years of Carney-Trudeau soft on drugs, soft on crime approach. A direct result of the Carney-Trudeau Liberals giving out free opioids, legalizing drug use in public spaces. And to downplay that, to refuse to call it a crisis and just call it a challenge, shows you that he doesn't have to deal with these types of consequences of these policies. He lives in a completely different world. He doesn't have to buy groceries in tough neighborhoods or take public transit. And he made those comments 2 days ago, and yesterday he was in Vancouver, didn't get a single question from the media on this. So why isn't the media holding Mark Carney to account? He's about to become the Prime Minister because a small group of Liberal Party members are going to install him. The least you can do is cover the way he's treating these important issues that are facing Canadians.
It is kind of crazy to think about that this random guy who doesn't answer any questions about current affairs in Canada, doesn't have any political experience, is about to be in the most important role, arguably the most important role in Canada. He's going to be leading our country. And there's all this rhetoric of, an election coming. I don't know if that's actually going to happen as early as people think it is. I would like to have faith in the system that will take place. But even Jagmeet Singh has been going around saying, I'm going to call an election if Mark Carney gets in. If Mark Carney gets in, we still have tariffs. I mean, for crying out loud, Trump just said, then we're going to take a look at that in a moment here. Trump said that we're having automotive tariffs as early as April 2nd. So that means that Mark Carney wins the leadership race. Parliament resumes. They do not have to issue their final opposition day, which is the only way that anyone can call a vote of non-confidence that isn't the sitting government. So that's Jagmeet's one ticket to actually do it. And Jagmeet's already said that he is committed if there are any tariffs in Canada, especially with steel, aluminum, especially with our automotive industry, that's going to hurt thousands, hundreds of thousands of jobs, that Jagmeet Singh's priorities are going to be providing relief through like handouts, right? Government handouts. And he can't call an election and do those handouts because the Conservatives aren't going to want to do those handouts to those affected by tariffs. Bloc Québécois is not going to want to do those handouts. The only one that's going to want to do it are the Liberals and the NDP. So you're going to see an ongoing coalition. And it's crazy. It's crazy that Canada is in this current position right now. Absolutely insane. But to not just talk and tell you that, trust me, Trump is doing automotive tariffs. Let's take a look at that actual clip. Here we go.
Meanwhile, Donald Trump once again spoke to reporters this afternoon while signing executive orders. The Oval Office media sessions have become a staple of these early weeks of his second term in office. Unlike yesterday, though, Trump did not talk about Canada today, at least not directly. The CBC's Richard Madden joins me live from Washington. So, Richard, Trump did talk about another tariff that might impact Canada, but just the fact that he didn't talk about Canada today seems newsworthy.
It is newsworthy, Andrew. Yeah, he didn't use the C word this time, Canada, of course, being that. He did talk about another tariff that could be on the horizon, but I'm going to list three things that stood out from his brief exchange with reporters. He was signing some executive orders. The first two were all symbolic. The first one blocks any government funding for schools or universities that have COVID vaccine mandates. So this is very much symbolic because no states have them. The second executive order is the creation of a new Energy Dominance Council to explore options for drilling and securing energy in the U.S. Now, President Trump talked about building a new pipeline to bring cheap domestic energy to New York and England and New England, and those markets get a lot of their energy from Quebec Hydro. So we're efforting to get more details on this plan. But the third, and perhaps more significantly, was the president's surprise announcement of another round of tariffs. This time, a vague promise to slap tariffs on all auto imports. Take a listen.
Sometime maybe around April 2nd, I would have done them on April 1st. Believe it or not. I'm a little superstitious. No, literally, we had it planned for April 1st. I said, let's make it April 2nd. You know how much money that costs? That costs a lot of money just that one day, but we're going to do it on April 2nd.
So unclear if he's bluffing or what his plans are.
Unclear if he's bluffing. Come on, bro. What do you think? You think he's bluffing? For crying out loud, the dude is on a rampage. And if you're American or pro-America, it's phenomenal to see. But here in Canada, we're getting the short end of the stick here. Of course, this is going to affect us because the way that automotives are built, the way that cars are built between Canada and America is there's like 8 or 7 or 6 or 5 border crossings that happen to assemble vehicles. Some of it gets done in America. It all gets shipped to Canada. Then it gets back to America, back to Canada, back to America, back to Canada, and then boom, final product. So if this is true, oh my goodness, this is like super duper big emergency for Canada. And of course, the only way that these tariffs go away, the only way that Canada avoids any of these tariffs is if we become the 51st state, which is extremely controversial. I know a lot of conservatives out there are super against that, but there's also a lot of people that are pro it. And I'm just going to take this time now to pass a question off to you. How do you feel about the solution to all these tariffs going away is becoming the 51st state? Are you for it? Are you against it? Let me know your reasoning down below. And now we got to take a look at this ridiculous MP. The NDP radical extremist Charlie Angus is on a rampage going after Orange Man bad. This clip here is posted by Clyde Do Something on X saying Mr. Angus is right about Canadians not going to Texas for vacation this year. They're moving there permanently to escape this corrupt socialist hellhole he helped create. And this is something I've seen a lot. A lot of people are up and leaving Canada. They want to move to America. That's usually a lot of the same groups that are fine with America absorbing Canada into becoming the 51st state. So let me know if you're watching from America, if you're watching from Canada. Here we go. Let's take a look at what this guy has to say.
I want to say this morning how much I love my country. We don't tend to do that in Canada. We think that that's kind of gauche. We don't feel we need to say how much we love our country. But when we see the criminal gang that has taken control in Washington telling us we do not have a right to our nation, well, oh yeah. Not only am I going to love my country and its values and the people from one end of this beautiful nation to another, but I'm going to work with those ordinary Canadians to defend our right to continue to exist as an independent nation. And for this, on the eve of the 60th anniversary of the Canadian flag, I encourage Canadians to reflect what that symbol means. That symbol that has been in war zones, that symbol that has been as Canadians went to fight famines in other countries, that symbol of openness and inclusion that is the direct opposite to the politics of Elon Musk and Donald Trump. This week we saw the shameful actions by Donald Trump to negotiate with Vladimir Putin.
Yeah, I don't know if Canadians want to stand, at least the viewers of this channel certainly don't want to celebrate Canada as being open and inclusive. I think that that's definitely not how you appeal to the majority of Canadians, maybe radical left-wing or NDP MPs or supporters in this instance. But to my understanding, I've been doing a bit more of a rabbit hole because I'm going down the rabbit hole. I've been feeling less and less patriotic, right? That's not to say that I'm jumping ship of Canada. It's not me judging people that want to jump ship. That's just me saying it's hard for me to be like, woohoo, go Canada. I love Canadian people. I love our land. I don't like our government. I don't like how much debt we're in, and the values that Canada has right now and has had is not something that I personally align with. Now, would that be different under a conservative government? I absolutely hope so. It seems like Pierre and the Conservatives are saying a lot of things that resonate with me and a lot of viewers of this channel. But again, I'm really having a hard time being super pro and proud Canadian right now. And so I've done a little bit of research and talking to people that are smarter than me about this. And it turns out that Canada's identity was literally supposed to be like a test pilot, like Europeans came and crossbred and that's it. It was never supposed to be this melting pot that we have right now, where we're like an international airport. Don't get me wrong, I grew up in Toronto where there were so many different races. In fact, the high school that I went to, I was the minority. You know, white guy with blue eyes and blonde hair. There was 2,000 people in my school that I went to in high school, and there were 80 white kids, and I was one of them. And I played sports and I stood out, so I was that white guy with blonde hair. But the way that Canada's going right now with our immigration, with just our temporary working visas and all that stuff, and our lack of our real patriotism. Like, we don't punish people that commit crimes. We don't punish people that illegally come here. We don't punish people that are abusing the system when they come here. We don't punish any of this stuff. It's so hard to be like, yes, I'm super pro-Canadian right now, when you have all of these flaws that are being abused, not in like the tens of people or the dozens or even the hundreds or the thousands. It's happening in the hundreds of thousands. Did you know that our population is like 42 million? That's insane. Weren't we just at like 35 or 36 million? How are we bringing in so many people here? And our birth rate is slowing down. Like, there's so many problems with Canada right now. And it's not going to be solved with waving a Canadian flag and having this liberal Canada first false patriotism approach where we just all of a sudden now the Canadian flag is no longer viewed as a right-wing extremist protest tool. It's like, woohoo, we're going to show our patriotism. I think that it's a lot deeper than that. And a lot of that is right here. A lot of the issues is people like this really R word. Like, I don't want to say, because I don't want to get penalized on YouTube, but it starts with re and ends with something else. This moron here tried to tried to make it a criminal offense. You would go to jail for saying that oil and gas is good. Like, that's not being pro-Canada. That's insane. Canada sits on one of the biggest oil reserves in the world. We should be pro-oil, pro-using our natural resources, and we're not. So these idiots, these morons that are touting Canada first, oh yeah, Team Canada, unless you're actually pro-using our resources and becoming an economic powerhouse, to you I say, shut the hell up, you little false patriotic piece of crap. Let's take a look, though, at what else he has to say.
Another gangster. To sell the people of Ukraine out. Mr. Putin thinks that Vladimir Putin is a savvy genius and he detests our country. Well, he's sending us a very clear message of the kind of man he is. Our neighbors are no longer our allies. We are dealing with a regime next door to us that is ignoring the international rule of law, and we have to take this dead serious. As a nation, with our political leaders, but with ordinary Canadians.
This guy here has also said that he would deny a vote of non-confidence, and he works for Jagmeet Singh. So you have all of these hopiums, right? All of this false hope right now that we're going to have an election real soon and, you know, vote of non-confidence and all these things. And I'm feeling, not to like turn this into a sap story, and I feel like I've really been talking about how I'm like negatively impacted by Canada's current state. I don't mean to sound like an espresso depresso here, but I feel like we should brace ourselves for the reality of a election in October. And we need to realize that these politicians are screwing us over, and this will only be fixed. Well, the only chance that we have of it being fixed is with a sweeping majority for the right. And I want to encourage Pierre and the Conservatives to even lean a little bit more right. That whole MAGA movement isn't a bad thing. In fact, the entire world right now, there's a bull market for selling that right-wing patriotism, that MAGA style politics, and Canadians are wanting that. That's why there's so many Canadians that are either fleeing to America or so many Canadians that are pro-Canada being annexed into the 51st state, or why there's so many snowbirds and people that just travel to America part-time. A lot of that has to do not only with the climate, but the politics, the affordability, and all that stuff. And there's a real chance for Canada to turn things around, but it's not going to happen under a Liberal government. That's my opinion, folks. I would absolutely love to know yours. On your way out, if you haven't yet already, click and tap that like button and subscribe. And please turn on the post notifications so you can actually be notified of upcoming videos. And I'll see you guys later. Bye for now.